Okay, hello everybody. Today I'm going to show you guys my DSLR scanning setup. We're going to scan this roll of Kodak 50D with my Sony a6300, a manual macro lens, and a cheap light pad off of Amazon. Let me show you what else we're going to need. So, here is my Sony a6300. As you can see, I have on it 2 extension tubes. I got them for like $10 maybe. Then I have the Sony E mount to Nikon F mount adapter right here because I shoot on Nikon film cameras. There are my cameras here, the FG or the FE and the FG. I have a manual Nikon macro lens. This one's really nice. It's the 200mm. It's the Nikkor 200mm. They call it micro Nikkor 200mm f4. But yeah, so that's the camera setup. Then you're gonna need a piece of anti-Newton ring glass. What makes it special is that one side is foggy, as you can see there, and the other side is smooth. So anti-Newton ring glass. I got this from scantech.com, and it's normally used for scanning on an Epson scanner, like a flatbed. This is the 120 version, so for 120 film. And I got this big piece because now I could do both 35mm and 120 film with the same piece of glass. It was like $30, so I didn't want to have to buy two. What the fogginess does is like it reduces what they call Newton rings, which happen when you shine light through glass. So apparently that is important. I'm sure it's not too big of a deal regardless though. But what you're going to want to do is put the shiny side down. Shiny side goes down. Another thing you'll need is this light pad. This light pad was $20 on Amazon. I bought the cheapest one, and it's clearly way bigger than I need it to be, but does the job, not complaining. It dims by just holding the button, and then brightens. And for my use, this has been plenty bright. That's usually the concern when it comes to cheap light pads, is that they're not bright enough or that they give you a strange texture. This one doesn't. The light is nice and diffused coming through, and it's been working out for me so far. So we got the camera, glass, light pad. Next thing you'll need is a tripod. I just use the tripod that I use for taking photos. The brand is on here somewhere. It's called like Rangers or something. But I bought it on Amazon a while back. It was maybe like $60, and it has like a ball head. Then this thing rotates side to side and has these nice quick clipping legs. And it's been plenty useful for me making a scan setup in a pinch. So you'll need your camera with your macro lens, and your tripod, and your glass, and your light pad. Next, you're going to want to have a blower of sorts. This thing I got in a pack. It was kind of just like a camera maintenance pack, and this comes so that you can like blow dust out of the sensor. Very useful for keeping your space clear, because dust easily accumulates. Not that dust is that big of a deal in the first place. Also, I have this remote shutter that I got off of B&H or something like that for like $5. So as you can see, I have the camera set on a 2-second timer, and it responds to this controller. I use it because it eliminates camera shake. Even though it's on a tripod with a big heavy lens weighing things down, just in case the table is getting bumped or like any sort of thing, I don't want to have to click the shutter button, shake the camera when I click the shutter button. I would rather just not touch the table at all not touch the camera at all, and then take the shot once everything's set still. So, on to the scanning. So I'll go through how I have my stuff built up. Okay, step number 1 is to clean all of your items that are going to be in contact with the film. And I will often use like a Windex of sorts, like a Windex type of cleaner, in addition to some paper towels and then like a microfiber cloth to get the final dust off. And then once it's dry, I'll hit it with a blower to get all the extra dust off. Really not that big a deal, but I feel like it's good practice. Then I will clean the light pad, of course, because it's the same thing. It's basically like another piece of glass that you want to keep clean. So like I said, you want the shiny side down. The shiny side touching the film. We have this in order. I'm going to turn the light pad on. Cool. Then you want to grab your film. I like to keep the film in full strip form. It doesn't matter if you cut it up or not, but I think keeping it in strip form helps expedite the process and make it more efficient, because you can move photo by photo by photo by photo by photo and not have to pick something up, put something down, put it back in the sleeve. I keep all my film in strip form permanently. I roll it up and put it in a bin, because it turned out for me that cutting the film strip by strip and putting it in those print file plastic sheets was the most time consuming part of the whole process for me shooting film, which was a big bummer because it was basically useless and I had to buy more plastic. Anywho, what I usually like to do is I will run my fingers across the film to get any big debris off. I'll do it like once each way. And then I get situated with the front of the film where I want it to be. And again, I'll just do this periodically to clean things up. And so, I'll get this rolling underneath the glass. So then, I will use papers like this. These are pages out of my friend's photo project, so shout out to him. I'm sure you guys will see soon enough. I'll use these papers to block the extra light coming in. See, because like all this light up here and up here will make like a little bit of a haze onto the image that you're scanning with your camera. This is just a really easy way to block that out. So, you have your image lined up, and then I will throw weights on the two ends of the glass, because all I need at the moment is this one frame, and this frame is lined up with the camera just right, and this lets me slide through real easy, quick access. Right, I'll give you a little bit closer up view. You have your film, you have your glass running vertically, the two barriers to block out the light, and then the two weights to hold the glass down, to hold the film flat. So now I'll give you a quick description of what I do on the camera. Basically, I keep it in aperture priority mode. I set the ISO to 100. Right, I set the ISO to 100. Forgot to mention, I set the aperture to something like f8. But like I said, this is a manual lens, so I have to set the aperture on the lens. I set it to f8 because you want a bigger depth of field than your minimum aperture. And also, in the middle of your apertures on any lens is the sharpest aperture, meaning that your image will be sharpest. It'll have the least distortion, and it will have the most clarity in the details. So yeah, set your aperture to somewhere around f8 or f11 or whatever's sharpest on your lens, if you know. And then, since it's in aperture priority mode, I will set the exposure to 0, and the shutter speed will automatically set itself. Depending on how dark or how light the negative is, the camera will adjust just like a scanner would, but to a more precise degree with the camera, so that you get the best exposure you can of your image. So I have the camera set up like that, with the screen flipped up so that when I'm sitting down here, I can see what's going on up there. And as I slide to the next image, I have enough visibility to get the next one lined up right? I can't really do it because I'm not looking the right way, but you get what I'm saying. Another important thing with the camera is that you want it to be shooting in RAW, so that there's no white balance going on and that you get all the data you can when you're going to take your scans to your computer and convert them however which way you convert them. Which, by the way, I use Negative Lab Pro. We got the materials, we got the camera settings. Oh, also with the camera, it may be hard to see, but I set up focus peaking. So you see those yellow dots? I set up focus peaking so it'll tell me what field of view, like what item in my field of view is in focus. Because the focus is obviously very important. Secondly, I will use the focus magnifier, and I will select a section of the film that tells me good information, and I will adjust the focus accordingly. You can even double zoom in. And you want to focus on the grain. Once you find some grain, you're good to go. Generally, these will be like 1/15 of a second to 1 second exposures. And keeping everything still, there's no problem because everything's anchored down, everything is still. So why this setup? I've scanned for a long time with the Prime Film XAS batch scanner, dedicated 35mm scanner, and it's been cool, and it goes automatically and it has really good quality, but it lacks an element of creative freedom that you can get with DSLR scanning. What I mean is just that with DSLR scanning, you can choose exactly the frame that you want scanned. So if you want the film borders, you can get the film borders. If you shot square images on a square camera, which I do, you can shoot the square image. You can scan the square image. If you shot on a half frame camera, you can get a full resolution scan of that one individual half frame on the film, and zoom in and set up your camera to scan just that half frame image. Also, you can scan any film type with this. I have the 120 piece of glass, and that's really the only limiting factor. Right now, I don't have any camera bigger than 120, so I'm chilling. I can scan anything that I shoot right now. One day, I'm sure I'll do 4x5 and 8x10, but all I need then is a bigger piece of glass, and I have everything. I have all the tools I need. Another reason why I chose this was because of the portability. And I say portability because soon I'm gonna be traveling in just my car and just living out of my car. It would be more difficult for me to carry around a dedicated 35mm scanner that takes up space and it takes up weight, and it's another thing I have to worry about. With the DSLR setup, I know I'm gonna be carrying around this Sony camera, and I know I'm gonna be carrying around this lens, and I know I'm gonna be carrying around this tripod. So all I'm really bringing extra is this light pad and this piece of glass, which are super small, super slim, can fit kind of wherever. Super easy, super lightweight too. Thirdly, it's faster. Compared to my Prime Film XAS, it's way faster to scan a whole roll. That scanner is less work than scanning a whole roll through this, but I can finish a roll in 5 minutes. Compared to on that, it takes an hour and a half to scan one roll at the resolution that I want it to be. Since I'm going to be on the road, I can't afford to sit around an hour and a half for every roll I shoot. I shoot a lot of film, and if I'm posted up somewhere and have 10, 15 rolls to develop, that's like a whole day's worth of scanning that I could get done in a couple hours with this. And then lastly is price. That scanner was $400 when I bought it. Or that wasn't a terrible price in my mind to spend on a scanner that would pay for itself in a couple dozen rolls. But this is way cheaper because I already had a camera, I already had the lens. All I had to do was buy $20 light table, $30 glass, and I was set. From what I can tell from the scans, I've been getting better color results out of this scanning method than the prime film. I did some research, and the resolution from this camera, which is 24 megapixels, to the 5000 DPI that the prime film can do, is pretty comparable. This might be a little lower quality, but honestly, I think overall the scans are better in terms of color, in terms of detail. I can manage the raw files better than I can manage the DNG files that come from the prime film. I'm gonna do a quick run through of how my normal scanning goes. So like I said before, I run my fingers over the film to clean it off, and then I usually follow it up with a microfiber cloth just to clean off any extra residue that was left from development. And then I set it up on its runway, so I get this set up right, and then I feed it right through. So what I do is I'll take a little slip of paper like this, and based on what the roll is, I'll write down the name I have for the roll. So I write my date, which is 2105, and I took this in New Orleans, so New Orleans, early in trip, around house, and I put my camera and my film type. So I took it on a Nikon FE, and it was taken on 500T. So I'll write something like this. And then, once all is said and done, I'll take a little piece of tape like this. I'll tape it on to my roll like this for storage. Once I'm done scanning. What I do is, I will put this in on the film scanning area, get it lined up with the camera, and take a picture with the remote, right? So that I know where this roll starts in my image files. And as I scroll through, each roll is separated by the title names like this. Again, I'll get the blower, and we'll begin scanning. So I'll get things lined up, and I like to take pictures of overexposed film or unexposed, or you know what I mean. And I slide over to the next one, make sure everything's in focus, and I take my picture. I make sure not to be touching the table and not to be jumping around so I don't shake the floor or anything. Remember, I use my remote to get the picture to fire. Maybe give it a couple blows. I move along. There are definitely faster ways to do this, but in my experience so far, this is plenty good. So another thing that you want to look out for is that sometimes, it's not happening right now, but sometimes the film will get right up against the glass and make contact. Instead of being perfectly flat, it'll make these weird, it'll make a weird pattern. Something that works for me is fitting in things like camera batteries and lifting up the edges of the film around where it scans, like outside of the glass. That has worked for me to keep that little texture from happening. And the only reason you want to avoid it, or the reason I want to avoid it, is just because in the finished product, after you convert it, you can see it, and it's leaving a mark on your image that wasn't there in the negative. But like I said, right now it's not doing it. You can check to see if it's happening by looking at it from an angle, and through the glare you should be able to see it. So real quick, a few other things. A few other important things I want to go over. One, something I don't do, which I'm going to in the future, is get levels and then put a level on the camera, like a little tiny level. I'll show a picture of it right now. And then I'll put another one on the table where the film is getting scanned. And then I can make sure that both of them are perfectly level so that I know I'm shooting at it from perfectly flat. Because right now, I think I'm pretty flat, and I use the level inside the camera. See right there? And that's good enough for me in From the scans that I've been getting, I don't see anything that's off. I don't see any curved edges or anything, which is good. But I am gonna get some levels. I'm sure it's not more than like $3, $4, $5, and just to ensure that I'm shooting at it from the right angle. Also, I want to mention the lighting. Right now, it's still pretty much daytime outside, but I live in a basement and it's fairly dark in here. But I do have this light on because of the video. Normally, I would either scan at night or close the blinds and turn off all the lights so that I'm not getting any extra light coming at the negatives from above. And I'm not totally sure how big of a difference this makes, but I think it's good practice because it seems to give the scans a little bit more rich and contrasted light. Because just like watching it right now, if I like shine this light on it, sure you'll get the glare, but that really won't go into the camera. But this light and the outside light can overpower the light table and leave you with a less illuminated image. Something else I thought was important is you want to have a nice runway for your strip of film to go so that there's a clear area, it's not getting scratched up or anything on its way into the scan. Clearly my table is plenty dirty, but it is still holding it up and it's keeping it off the floor, which is way dirtier than the table. Because before I had it running on the floor and the film was just picking up a bunch of dust from the floor. Why DSLR scanning? Which this isn't even a DSLR. This is a mirrorless camera, but in terms of the technique, same difference. So why DSLR scanning compared to getting it done at a lab or scanning with a flatbed or scanning with a dedicated 35mm scanner? Shh. Shush. Be quiet, kitty. I'm trying to speak. So for me, doing things myself has been really liberating in terms of accessibility, cost, and really learning about the craft, or like really making the images how I want them to be. You gotta be kidding me, kitty. Hello, Rocco. Rocco goofing on me. So what was I saying? Double kitty action. Double kitty action. Doing things at home, doing things yourself, gives you a lot more opportunity to, one, save money, but two, make what you want to make. You're not depending on anybody to make critical decisions about the color of your scans or the border or the crop of your images. You get to decide everything. And sure, they might have marginally better quality than what you can probably produce yourself at home, but even scanning with a flatbed is pretty good quality, and it gives you that freedom to learn how the process works yourself. Why DSLR technique over the other types of scanners? I was saying it a little bit earlier, but I really realized that this gives you the creative freedom and the accessibility that the other scanners don't. You don't have to sit around waiting for the scanner to finish. You don't have to swap out 5 image strips every 5 minutes. You don't have to deal with a software you're not familiar with, the scanning software I'm talking about. You can use a camera that you probably already know how to work. And then why my weird setup of glass and blockers and weights and light pad? I honestly have gone with that because of the price factor and again the freedom that comes with it. People will call them negative carriers or film advancers or something like that. Negative carriers is a pretty common term. People sell negative carriers that you can put on top of a light table and you feed your film in and then you crank it to move to the next image. But from what I found, those are usually pretty expensive. There's one from like Negative Supply, and then there's one called like the Essential Film Holder. And the Essential Film Holder I thought about getting, but then I found out that when you get the attachment that lets you scan the film borders, it doesn't hold the film as flat. So I was kind of bummed out about that. I wanted the full flat negative image, and I didn't want to have to compromise. And since this was such a cheap option, it couldn't have hurt for me to try this out. And so far, I'm really satisfied with the results and the process. I just scanned like 15 rolls the other day. Took me a couple hours, definitely monotonous. That was including time figuring out exactly what lens I was going to use and the extension tubes and like the whole setup. But now I can bust out a roll in 5 minutes. Used to take an hour and a half for me before. All in all, I think this is kind of the move. If anybody is interested in scanning film with a low barrier to entry. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you want any other videos about scanning, including the Prime Film XAS, let me know, and I can get on that for y'all. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you down the road.